Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the latest episode of Rick and Morty, Morty Daddy. And I thought that this one was okay. I don't think it was a really kind of bad episode. I think each kind of concept, because it's delved into A and B plot, though the Summer and Rick one kind of more feeds into the A plot of Morty and his son, Morty Jr. The Morty Jr. one is kind of more well fleshed out and executed, whereas the Summer and Rick one seems to have been, they couldn't flesh it out as much and just kind of tacked it on into here. So I still think it's a pretty decent episode, it just wasn't working as well as it could have. I do like the most kind of parts that they do of examining Morty's relationship with his son and what kind of goes on with that. So we pretty much see that they're having kind of breakfast together, and they start commenting about like the pancakes and everything. Morty getting a call that his son is in the hospital and wondering if he should kind of go and check that out. Everybody else being like, that dude's an asshole, bringing up that he brought the whole kind of book calling Morty a horrible father, but I mean, he is, but of course that shits on the rest of the kind of Smith family. We see that Rick then gets a buzzer for a precog restaurant, and that Jerry has a vibrator up his ass, as that's the next thing that vibrates off. So then we kind of dovetail here. Morty goes and visits his son in the hospital, trying to see what's kind of going on. They're still kind of feeling each other out. Morty Jr. wanting to pretty much pay his respects to his mother, who is pretty much the sex doll, and Morty acquiescing and trying to take him onto there. So we find that he's got a Rick's got a garbage portal, and the Salvatron thing is in there, pretty much like the Eye of Sauron and all that. And they kind of go down there, and it's like, wow, this is kind of fucked up. But let's kind of deal with it, because we think that Morty Jr. is dying, but that doesn't turn out to be the actual case. But we see that the Salvatron finds him his value, tries to call Rick, but he's like, nah, fuck this shit, and then tries to blow him up instead, being like, yeah, I don't need to talk to Rick. So I just, like, blow shit up. So they then get blasted to a lower level of and get into this garbage-topia kind of place, where we see all these people, well, all these kind of these inventions that Rick had done, like a talking, like going through with like all these talking kind of things, toilets, pizza box kind of thing that shits pizza and tells them the way to kind of go to find the kind of graveyard of other kind of sex bots that Morty has fucked. Also, his son gave him like this kind of fantasy book series that he did with this like goblin horn thing that is down there. It's like, I can't believe you treated my books like this. And he's pretty much paid his respects to the mom. And then this other kind of crazy ass motherfucker comes up and pretty much tries to utilize Morty to get out of the place. And we also find out that we see that Morty Jr. is potentially killed here. And being like, no, you just inferred that I was dying. And pretty much using him for material for a new book because he's broke and he's been like fucking like Heather Locklear and all these other people and doing it for, and he's like screwed over for child support. It's like, huh, yeah, you've made some pretty shitty ass decisions too, Morty Jr. And they then lead a robot uprising and take down Salvatron and pretty much are settling in. I mean, Morty Jr.'s already got his own kind of like fuck toaster or fuck microwave that he's got, and then that's where it kind of gets into with Rick and Summer. So they go to the precog restaurant. Rick gets what he wasn't expecting, which is what he wanted, and Summer gets avocado toast with pepper. She's pissed off at this and pretty much goes in and starts kind of like ramming and being an asshole to the precogs. They of course get on Rick's good side, and she accidentally smacks one with a pan, and this of course gets like a whole police thing. They take the precogs with them, as Rick's like, hey, you put us in here now. And he's pretty much eating this giant eclair by the pool, but he gets drugged by Summer. And she's driving the precog. She's like, I knew I didn't want that shit, so what the fuck's kind of going on? So we pretty much get them in this kind of chase that then has the precog setting up a food truck that then eventually does give Summer what she wanted, as they pretty much were playing them against each other. And then Rick was trying to figure out if what the precogs were doing were real for him, and they're like, not really. And then he just pretty much garbage portals those motherfuckers And Morty's like, fucking get me out of here, fucking get me out of here. And that's pretty much how it kind of ends. And then we get a post-credit scene with the precogs doing their food truck in Garbage-topia. And then we've got the finale coming up. So we'll see how that kind of works out. I think the precog thing was just mainly as an underdeveloped scenario that they had to pretty much just get Morty out of the garbage portal dimension after what kind of transpired with Salvatron and that going nutty and not being able to get out of there. I did like them exploring the dynamic between the rest of the Smith family and Morty Jr., and Morty Jr. being a horrible ass motherfucker, but it's kind of done because he didn't really have a good father, and that leads him to making just as bad kind of choices that he's got, even though he's got to personally own up to them, as he then just stays in the garbage dimension fucking his microwave. So that I kind of liked, and Morty attempting to kind of... At least Morty was attempting to be a better person and try to help his son, even though he knows he has not done right by him. And then his son just being an asshole and being like, yeah, I need material for a new book. And then just stays back in the portal dimension, the garbage portal dimension, so that way it doesn't deal with the consequences of his actions. Morty at least has grown to the kind of point that he does at least accept the consequences of his actions, even though sometimes he doesn't really like to do that. Rick, of course, is more just like, fuck this shit. I'm going to consequence the shit out of you motherfuckers with the precogs. So yeah, I thought this was decent enough on those kind of explorations, and I didn't really laugh out loud at a lot of kind of stuff, but I was like, okay, this is interesting enough and entertaining enough. Not every episode's got to send me rocking on my ass and laughter or whatnot, but it's nice to have a nice solid joke once or twice that gets you like, yeah, that'll work. So we'll see how this season ends, and where we kind of go from here. This was more of a kind of uneven season for me, but that happens with a long-running show, so we'll see how this kind of works out. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.